set our auction. To set your pressures, you're going to have to open your valves up. For welding, I'm going to set my auction on 5. And I'm going to set my acetylene on 5. I'll go ahead and get my rod ready. It's just a metal rod, metal filler rod, like the striker. Open up my acetylene.
That's cool.
I'm gonna get rid of that black smoke. I want this a little hotter flame, a little more acetylene. So that's a carbonizing flame. You see that feather right there? So we want more oxygen. That's an oxidizing flame. See how loud it is? That's a neutral flame. That's exactly what we want. So we're going to get comfortable right here. I'm going to hold the rod down there and let it start getting warm. But I'm not melting the rod onto the metal right now. I'm getting the metal hot and just letting the rod preheat. I'm waiting for this metal to turn to a puddle, molten puddle. Getting close, and with safety glasses, with cleared lenses, it's hard to see this because it's so bright. That's the reason the shade 5 glasses are important. Now I've got my puddle. You don't want it to get too hot. Now I'll start dipping my rod in there. And I'm working that in a semicircle. Once it gets started, then you have to speed up because your metal all around where you're welding is getting warmer than when you started. So I'm not putting that neutral flame tip to the metal, it's just right above it. And I'm working that puddle in a semicircle motion, and it's going to look like a stick welding bead. So I'm melting the metal and the rod at the same time. So that angle is about like that right there. You just keep adding rod, dipping that rod, and then working this around the rod. Now we'll turn our acetylene off, and we'll turn our auction off. And that right there is what that looks like as far as just a simple filler rod. Now that has pretty much been replaced by wire welding, but that's really good practice for TIG welding. When we get to TIG welding, that motion is very similar, and having to multitask there, move in different directions. So now we need to braze. Brazing is still used. So we need to light our torch. A little bit colder of a flame. So not as large of a flame for brazing, because it's a colder process. I'm gonna start over here. I want to get the metal red. I don't want to get it molten like I had it. I'm keeping my bronze rod in there to preheat it. And now we're getting ready. Brazing's a little faster. So you just dip that rod, and I'm doing more melting the rod than melting the metal. But your metal has to be red hot for this to stick. Just making semicircles, dipping that rod into my puddle. We turn the acetylene off and our oxygen off. Then your brazing bead will look like that. Now to shut this down, you can go ahead and put up your shade 5s, put on your clear lenses so you can see. We're going to turn our bottles off. We're going to open our valves up. We're going to bleed the lines. That way these are not full of flammable gas. We're going to turn a quarter turn to the left there. Shut these back down. You need to cool your metal off and then clean up your station.